The Matrix changed everything. In 1999, the Wachowskis blew the doors off mainstream culture with a single terrifying idea. What if the world you see, touch, and taste is nothing but a simulation? What if reality itself is a lie? It was revolutionary. It was groundbreaking. It was the first time anyone had ever seriously proposed that existence might be fake. And that last part, that is completely, absolutely, spectacularly wrong. The idea that reality is an illusion didn't start in a Hollywood studio. It started in caves, in monasteries, in the feverish journals of philosophers who asked the same haunting question thousands of years before Keanu Reeves ever dodged a bullet. And honestly, some of their versions were way more disturbing than anything the machines ever cooked up. Here is what most people believe. They believe the Matrix invented simulation theory for popular consumption. They believe that before Neo woke up in that pod of goo, nobody was walking around seriously questioning whether the physical world was real. Ask the average person on the street where the idea of simulated reality comes from. And 9 times out of 10, they will say the Matrix. Maybe the more tech-savvy ones will mention Elon Musk or Nick Bostrom's 2003 simulation argument. But the general consensus is that this is a modern idea, born from computers, born from code, born from our digital age. And look, it makes sense why people think that. The Matrix dressed the idea up in such perfect science fiction clothing that it felt new. Ones and zeros, artificial intelligence, a digital dream world fed directly into your brain. The language was modern, the aesthetics were modern, so the idea must be modern too, right? Not even close. The truth is, questioning the nature of reality is one of the oldest philosophical traditions in human history. And the thinkers who did it first didn't need a single line of code to arrive at conclusions that are, in some cases, more radical than anything the Wachowskis ever put on screen. Let's rewind about 2,400 years to ancient Athens. A man named Plato, student of Socrates, arguably the most influential philosopher in Western history, sat down and wrote a story so eerily similar to The Matrix that when you hear it, you will wonder if the Wachowskis owed him royalties. In Book 7 of the Republic, Plato describes a group of prisoners who have been chained inside a cave since birth. They face a blank wall. Behind them, a fire burns, and between the fire and the prisoners, people carry objects that cast shadows on the wall. The prisoners have never seen anything else. To them, those shadows are reality. They name the shadows. They study the shadows. They build their entire understanding of existence around the shadows. They have no idea that what they are looking at is a flickering, distorted projection of something far more real happening behind them. Now here is where it gets interesting. Plato then asks, what happens when one prisoner is freed? He turns around. The firelight blinds him. Everything he thought was real collapses. He stumbles out of the cave into actual sunlight and is overwhelmed. The real world is more vivid, more complex, more beautiful than anything the shadows ever suggested. But when he goes back to tell the other prisoners, they think he is insane. They don't want to be freed. The shadows are comfortable. The shadows are familiar. Sound like anyone taking a red pill. The parallels are not subtle. Plato was making the argument in approximately 375 BCE that the world we perceive with our senses is not the true world. It is a shadow play, a projection, a layer of reality that most people accept without question because they have never been shown anything else. The Matrix replaced firelight with machine code, but the architecture of the idea is identical. Plato built the blueprint. He just didn't have leather trench coats. Fast forward about 2,000 years to the 1600s. A French philosopher named René Descartes is sitting in a room, probably near a fireplace, because the man was famously obsessed with staying warm, and he is doing something dangerous. He is trying to doubt everything, not as a stunt, not as a thought experiment for fun. He genuinely wants to strip away every single belief he holds and find out if anything survives, if anything is truly, undeniably real. And he arrives at a terrifying possibility. What if, Descartes asks, there is an evil demon of utmost power and cunning who has employed all his energies to deceive me? What if this demon has created an elaborate illusion, a fake sky, a fake earth, fake colors, fake shapes, and is feeding all of it directly into my mind? What if everything I experience, every sensation, every sight, every sound, is a lie manufactured by a being whose entire purpose is to trick me? This is not metaphor. Descartes is dead serious. He is saying there is no logical way to prove, using your senses alone, that an all-powerful deceiver is not behind everything you experience. Your senses can be fooled, your memories can be fabricated. The only thing you can know for certain is that you are thinking, because the act of doubting proves a doubter exists. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Everything else is up for grabs. Now replace evil demon with the machines and tell me this isn't the plot of the Matrix. An all-powerful entity constructing a false reality and feeding it to minds that have no way of detecting the deception from the inside. Descartes published this in 1641. The Wachowskis released The Matrix in 1999. That is a 358-year head start, and Descartes didn't even have the benefit of special effects. But even Descartes was late to the party. If you want the true origin of the reality is fake idea, you need to go east, and you need to go way, way back. In Hindu philosophy, there is a concept called Maya. It appears in some of the oldest religious texts in human history, the Vedas and the Upanishads, with roots stretching back as far as 1500 BCE and possibly earlier. Maya is typically translated as illusion, but that does not quite capture it. Maya is the idea that the entire material world, everything you see, hear, and touch, every mountain, every ocean, every star in the sky, is a kind of cosmic magic trick. It is not the ultimate reality. It is a veil draped over the true nature of existence, which is Brahman, the infinite, formless, universal consciousness that underlies everything. Here is what makes Maya arguably more radical than either Plato or Descartes. In Plato's cave, the shadows are fake, but the world outside is real. In Descartes' scenario, the demon is fake, but the thinking self is real. But in the concept of Maya, the illusion goes all the way down. Your individual self, your ego, your sense of being a separate person with a name and a history, that is part of the illusion too. The separation between you and the universe is the trick. The only thing that is real is the boundless, undivided whole, and you are already it. You just cannot see through the veil. This is not some fringe idea. This is a central pillar of several major schools of Hindu philosophy, particularly Advaita Vedanta, formalized by the philosopher Adi Shankara around 800 CE, but drawing on traditions vastly older. We are talking about a sophisticated, fully developed theory of illusory reality that predates the Matrix by at least 2,500 years. And it goes further than the movie ever dared. The Matrix says you are a real person trapped in a fake world. Maya says even the you doing the trapping is part of the fiction. Now here is where I want to be fair, because it would be easy to walk away from all this thinking the Wachowskis were just a couple of Hollywood plagiarists. They were not, and here is the evidence for what they actually accomplished. First, the Wachowskis never hid their influences. They famously required the cast to read Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation before filming. You can see a copy of the book literally on screen in the movie. They drew openly from Plato, from Descartes, from Buddhist and Hindu philosophy, from Gnostic Christianity, from the works of Philip K. Dick. They were not pretending to invent these ideas. They were synthesizing them, and that synthesis is the real achievement. What the Matrix did was take 2,500 years of abstract philosophical questioning and make it visceral. It made it cool. It made it accessible to people who would never in a million years sit down and read the Upanishads or slog through Descartes' meditations. Before 1999, simulation theory was the domain of philosophy departments and ashrams. After 1999, it was the domain of everyone. Your barber had an opinion about it. Your taxi driver had a theory. The Matrix did not invent the question. It democratized it. It took an ancient, elite conversation and handed it to the entire world in a 2-hour package with incredible fight choreography. That is not nothing. That is genuinely important cultural work. But it is also not the origin story people think it is. The real origin story is older, stranger, and in many ways more unsettling than any blockbuster has managed to capture. So the next time someone tells you the Matrix was the first to ask whether reality is real, you now have about 3,000 years of ammunition to politely correct them. Plato built the framework, Descartes sharpened the doubt, Hindu philosophers dissolved the self entirely. The Wachowskis just gave it sunglasses and bullet time. But here is something that should keep you up tonight. There is one ancient philosophical tradition we barely scratched today, one that might be the strangest of all. The Gnostics, a group of early Christian mystics, believed that the entire physical universe was a prison built by a false god, a deranged, inferior deity who created the material world to trap divine sparks of light inside human bodies. They called this false creator the demiurge. And the Wachowskis? They borrowed from Gnosticism more heavily than almost any other source. The story of the demiurge, the false god who builds a counterfeit reality and convinces everyone it is the only world that exists, is a rabbit hole that goes so deep it makes the Matrix look like a children's bedtime story. That is a story for the next video. If you want to be here when that one drops, you know what button to hit. Join the channel, stick around, and let's keep pulling on threads that the rest of the internet is too lazy to unravel.